Family, lock in with me right now and put that phone down flat on the table, because what I am about to walk you through is the single most incriminating chain of receipts I have ever seen a young woman in this industry stack against her own name in real time. And every sunrise from this morning forward, the walls keep sliding a little bit closer to Chrisean Rock. I am telling you on my kids, on my mama, on every subscriber who has been rocking with this channel since the very first Blueface breakdown. By the time the December calendar flips over, Chrisean Rock is going to be sitting inside a cold Maryland intake room, signing paperwork for the killing of a young man whose only offense was standing in a courthouse hallway with a manila folder asking a judge to order a paternity swab on a baby he swore on his life belonged to him. This is not blog chatter. This is not a Zeus Network greenroom whisper. This is not some Twitter user in a basement running a wild theory into the sky. TMZ has put this story in ink. The Anne Arundel County Police Department in Maryland has now confirmed on the record that the case is open, active, and moving. A witness has already been sat down in front of two detectives and asked pointed questions about his personal ties to Chrisean Rock. And multiple people who have shared a green room, a hotel suite, and a baddie's dressing room with Chrisean Rock are now saying, out of their own mouths, that Chrisean Rock told them she made the call. Roll the tape, because this is on track to become the loudest hip-hop crime story of the decade. And I do not want a single one of you scrolling past this video without knowing exactly what is about to hit your feed. Here is the piece nobody is willing to touch. Long before the shooting happened outside that quiet house in Severn, Maryland, long before Ronny Doe took 10 rounds in his own driveway, with his front door still unlocked behind him, long before Wack 100 sat in front of a livestream camera and predicted the exact fall this woman is now walking into, Chrisean Rock had already been broadcasting her own capacity for violence to anyone with a working phone screen. Chrisean Rock stomped Carlisa Saffold's bodyguard on a live stream in front of 500,000 viewers. Chrisean Rock got publicly manhandled by Blueface on a Los Angeles sidewalk and then turned back around and told the internet she was still in love with him. Chrisean Rock got confronted by Ronny Doe inside a mall food court while she was carrying an infant, and Ronny Doe screamed loud enough for every shopper in that building to hear that the child in her arms carried his blood, not Blueface. Chrisean Rock has been telling on herself in ultra-slow motion for close to 2 full years, and now the paper trail is stacking so high that TMZ, an outlet owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, has printed her government name inside the same paragraph as an unsolved Maryland homicide. If you thought the Blueface saga was chaotic, if you thought the Zeus Network reality cameras were catching the worst of it, I promise you on everything I own, the ugliest chapter has not even opened yet. Watch this, because the timeline is the piece that is going to slide the handcuffs onto Chrisean Rock's wrists. Ronny Doe, legal name Karen Deschancoles, had been chasing Chrisean Rock across 3 states trying to force a paternity ruling on a baby he was 100% convinced was his son. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. Every court date came with a mysterious postponement. Every subpoena came back marked undelivered. And here is the piece that makes my chest tighten. Ronny Doe was there in the delivery room the morning that baby arrived. Ronny Doe was on record telling anyone who would slow down long enough to listen that Chrisean Jr. was his flesh and blood, down to the eyes, down to the shape of the mouth, down to the exact angle of the front teeth. He was so convinced that he walked up on Chrisean Rock while she stood outside a mall entrance with the baby in her arms and yelled the truth as he saw it into the open air. Chrisean Rock filed for a protective order that same evening. Ronny Doe caught a court date behind that filing. That court date was set for a Friday. And on the Wednesday night before that Friday hearing, the same Friday hearing where Ronny Doe planned to hand a judge a written motion demanding a paternity subpoena on Chrisean Rock's toddler in open court, Ronny Doe was ambushed outside his home in Severn, Maryland. A vehicle rolled up on his back bumper. A shooter stepped out. Ronny Doe never had a chance to raise a hand. 10 shots. Surgical. Whoever pulled that trigger wanted the job finished before the calendar could tick over to Friday morning. And you want to sit in front of your screen and tell me that is coincidence. I dare you. But that is only the shallow water on this story. Because a full week before Ronny Doe was executed in his own driveway, a bounty had already been posted on his forehead. A bounty that Ronny Doe knew about. A bounty that the neighborhood chatter around him was already whispering by the Sunday before he died. And by the time Ronny Doe stopped breathing on that Wednesday night, that bounty had been publicly known for exactly 4 full days. For days. Now sit with that. Sit with the math. Ask yourself who benefits from Ronny Doe missing that Friday hearing. Ask yourself who benefits from a paternity test never being ordered. Ask yourself who benefits from a subpoena never being served. There is exactly one person breathing on this planet who benefits from every one of those outcomes stacking in sequence, and her name is Chrisean Rock. Because listen, Chrisean Rock has already confessed, and I am not saying that for the drama. I am not saying that to run up the click count. Multiple industry veterans, not one, not two, multiple, have now shared the identical account out of separate mouths in separate cities on separate weekends. Chrisean Rock told them, in her own words, that Ronny Doe had been running up on her too many times, that the mall confrontation with the baby in her arms was the last straw, that she was tired of the public humiliation, that she was tired of him following her from a Los Angeles studio to a Miami taping to a Baltimore hotel lobby, and that she made a phone call and made him vanish. If Chrisean Rock wants to jump on a live stream tonight and swear on her mother's name that she never said any of that, I could pull up a list of the exact rooms where those confessions were dropped. I could name 3 of those witnesses right now on this microphone. I will not, because I am not trying to catch a subpoena myself, and I am not trying to end up on a witness list. But every insider who has walked into a Zeus Network taping in the last 14 months has heard the same admission come out of the same mouth on the same subject at the same volume. Chrisean Rock has told on herself so many times that Wack 100, from a live stream that is still archived on YouTube from more than half a year ago, predicted this exact investigation, predicted the exact trajectory of the arrest, and predicted the exact mechanism by which Chrisean Rock will fall. Here is what Wack 100 said. Wack 100 said Chrisean Rock is not politically connected in the way that would let her survive a federal-adjacent homicide file. Wack 100 said Chrisean Rock is not sitting on generational money. Wack 100 said Chrisean Rock is not a certified street figure with a lifetime of loyalty banked. Chrisean Rock, Wack said, is a young woman who paid a small amount of money to a couple of guys with no code, no loyalty, and no reason on this earth to eat a life sentence on her behalf. And the moment one of those guys gets swept up on an unrelated case anywhere in the Baltimore corridor, anywhere in Prince George's County, anywhere in Anne Arundel County itself, the moment that ordinary traffic stop turns into a felony arrest, that shooter is going to walk into a Maryland interrogation room and hand a Detective Chrisean Rock's name in exchange for a plea offer on his own charge. This is the exact playbook that ended Jimmy Henchman. This is the exact trajectory that is now pulling Chrisean Rock toward the same door. But that is not even the loudest bell in this story. Because there is another clip circulating tonight, a clip pulled from a Neon live stream where Chrisean Rock, on camera, in front of her own paying audience, told Neon that if he kept playing with her, he was going to end up in a grave right next to her baby daddy. Her exact wording. She said it. It is timestamped. It is archived. Every gossip librarian in this niche was screen recording that stream in real time the moment those syllables left her mouth. And I am asking any single one of you watching this breakdown right now, if you have that clip saved on your camera roll, if you have that clip sitting in a private folder somewhere, upload it, tag it, drop it in a comment, because that clip is about to be shrink-wrapped and labeled as Exhibit A in a Maryland homicide indictment. Chrisean Rock does not know how to stay off a microphone. Chrisean Rock does not understand that every single second she spends on Snapchat, on Instagram Live, on Zeus Network cameras, on X Spaces at 3 in the morning, is a second that a Maryland detective can walk into a district court with a signature and pull down as evidence. Watch this, because TMZ reached out to law enforcement this week, and the response that came back is the single most damaging sentence I have read in an entertainment news cycle since the Diddy raid. A representative for the Anne Arundel County Police Department in Maryland told TMZ, in writing, that they can confirm the case is open and active, but that they are unable to provide additional details at this time. Read that sentence again. Read it slowly. Because if Chrisean Rock was not a person of interest, if Chrisean Rock was not a suspect, if Chrisean Rock's name was not already circled in red on that detective's whiteboard, the answer would have been very different. The answer would have sounded like the answer the Chicago Police Department gave the day Lil Durk asked whether he was a suspect in the killing of Stephon Clark. Chicago went on record and said publicly, in writing, that Lil Durk was not a suspect and there was no intent to charge. That is the answer a department gives when a name has already been cleared. That is not what Anne Arundel County said about Chrisean Rock. Anne Arundel County said we cannot comment. Anne Arundel County said the investigation is active. And when a department answers like that, family, that means the name is already on the wall. That name is already highlighted on a corkboard inside a Maryland precinct. And it is not Poetic Flacco's name. And it is not the name of a random face in a lineup. And it is not your name, and it is not my name, because we were never in the room. Chrisean Rock's name is the name on that board. Here is the piece nobody is willing to touch. A man that the streets refer to as Quell. A man who was in the DMs going back and forth with Ronny Doe in the weeks leading up to the shooting. A man who had his own separate history of tension with Chrisean Rock has already been called in by police. Quell has already sat down. Quell has already answered questions on the record. And Quell has already stated, out of his own mouth, that every question the detectives circled back to on that day landed on Chrisean Rock. On her personality. On what she was capable of. On the timeline of her relationship with Ronny Doe. On who she was texting during the 4 days that Bounty was live. On what she was capable of paying for and what she was capable of ordering. Quell has already been squeezed. Quell is the exact type of cooperating witness whose testimony can pivot an entire homicide investigation because Quell was inside the digital paper trail. Every direct message, every screenshot, every voice memo, every threat, every emoji, every timestamped read receipt is now sitting inside a Maryland evidence locker within Anne Arundel County case number stamped across the top of the folder. Roll the tape, because Chrisean Rock is also visibly preparing to leave the country. Chrisean Rock has already announced on her own social channels that she is moving abroad. She has been telling her audience for close to a month that she is done with America, that the vibes are off, that she needs a fresh start, and that she is packing up her son and disappearing to a jurisdiction where the American press cannot find her. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a young woman who wants to reset. But when you line the exact week she made that announcement against the exact week TMZ picked up her name on an active homicide file, you understand what is really happening here. Chrisean Rock is not going on vacation. Chrisean Rock is running. Chrisean Rock is watching TMZ print her name next to the word murder. Chrisean Rock is watching Wack 100's 7-month-old prediction age like a fine Napa Cabernet. Chrisean Rock is watching Quell get walked into a Maryland precinct for a formal statement. Chrisean Rock is doing the arithmetic on what 4 days of bounty, plus 1 dead ex-boyfriend, plus 1 missed Friday court date, plus multiple confessions dropped inside industry green rooms adds up to. And the number she keeps landing on ends in a pair of steel bracelets. So Chrisean Rock is now telegraphing a move to a country with an extradition treaty as a decoy, and if she is smart, which the streets are not convinced she is going to reroute on the last leg and disappear to somewhere that does not have one. Try to catch her if you can. But that is not even the wildest chapter yet. Because Blueface has now started to talk. Blueface, from inside a California state prison cell with a payphone in his hand and a commissary line behind him, has begun telling anyone who will accept a collect call that he does not trust Chrisean Rock. That Chrisean Rock is a backdoor operator. That Chrisean Rock is capable of levels of manipulation the general public has not begun to grasp. And that if Chrisean Rock did what every insider is now claiming she did, Blueface wants his name nowhere near the aftermath. Now, here is what is going to send Blueface's mother, Carlisa Saffold, into a fit of laughter at the next bus stop she pulls up to in Southern California. Carlisa has been shouting into the internet wind for 2 full calendar years that Chrisean Rock is dangerous. Carlisa has been saying, over and over, that Chrisean Rock manipulated her son. Carlisa has been saying that Chrisean Rock lied about the paternity of that baby from the first ultrasound photograph. Carlisa has been saying that Chrisean Rock was still entangled with Ronny Doe when she started sleeping with Blueface. And Carlisa, for the first time in this entire multi-year saga, is about to be publicly, on camera, receipts in hand vindicated. Drop your verdict below and tell me how you feel about that. Here is the piece nobody wants to admit. Chrisean Rock's own biological sister, on camera, on a Jason Lee interview that is still sitting on the internet as we speak, implied in language soft enough to duck a defamation filing, but heavy enough for every fan in the comment section to hear. That Chrisean Rock had Ronny Doe killed to duck a court-ordered paternity test. Her own sister. Her own blood. The woman who grew up in the same bedroom, who ate off the same kitchen table, who watched Chrisean Rock from the first day she walked to the day she signed her first Zeus contract. Chrisean Rock's own sister is on video suggesting that Chrisean Rock committed a homicide to protect a lie about a baby. And Chrisean Rock, to this day, has not filed one single lawsuit. Chrisean Rock has not sued her sister. Chrisean Rock has not sued Wack 100. Chrisean Rock has not sued Jason Lee. Chrisean Rock has not sued a single blog or a single YouTuber who has picked this narrative up. Because if Wack 100 was lying, Chrisean Rock would have sued Wack 100 already. If her sister was lying, Chrisean Rock would have sued her sister already. But there is a legal reason for the silence, and that legal reason is that truth is an absolute defense to a defamation claim. And Chrisean Rock cannot risk sitting inside a sworn deposition where a licensed attorney places her under oath and asks her whether she did or did not orchestrate the killing of Karen Deshawn Coles. Because listen, once Chrisean Rock lies inside a sworn deposition, that lie is federal perjury, and perjury is the crack that pries the whole case open. Every attorney in the country understands that. Chrisean Rock, at some point in the last 90 days, has finally understood it too. Watch this, because Chrisean Rock is now visibly trapped. Chrisean Rock is boxed in. Chrisean Rock has a public that is turning on her in real time. Chrisean Rock has a former mother-in-law figure in Carlisa Saffold who is about to spend the next 12 months on every podcast in America saying, "I told you so." Chrisean Rock has an incarcerated baby daddy in Blueface who is now quietly telling anyone who will accept the collect call that he wants nothing to do with her legal exposure. Chrisean Rock has a sister who has already implied on a nationally streamed interview that she did it. Chrisean Rock has industry insiders lined up with names, dates, and coordinates. Chrisean Rock has a neon livestream clip that captures a verbatim threat mirroring the exact fate that Ronny Doe eventually suffered. Chrisean Rock has a TMZ headline attached to her legal name in an active homicide file. And Chrisean Rock has a Maryland detective sitting in an office in Millersville right now, watching every one of these breakdowns on his own phone during his lunch break, cataloging every fresh admission, every fresh timestamp, every fresh witness who volunteers themselves in a comment section under a YouTube upload. Because listen, this is the piece that is going to freeze your spine. The police did not have to do the excavation on this case. The internet did the excavation for them. Every screen-recorded live stream, every leaked DM, every insider confession dropped inside a green room, every fan on Twitter who zoomed into a photograph of Chrisean Jr. and compared Ronny Doe's front teeth to the baby's front teeth. Every one of those receipts is now cataloged, tagged, cross-referenced, and stapled into a Maryland case binder. And every one of those receipts was volunteered by an audience that thought it was just being nosy. An audience that never realized it was doing homicide investigation as a weekend hobby. Police do not knock on doors anymore, family. Police open a browser tab. Police follow the trail that the audience already excavated. And by the time the department is ready to move, the file is already built, the file is already sealed, and all that remains is the fitting of the wristbands. But that is not even the wildest movement of the last week. Because in the last 72 hours, Chrisean Rock has started posting on Snapchat that she has found the Lord. Chrisean Rock has been posting scripture. Chrisean Rock has been posting prayer emojis. Chrisean Rock has been talking about walking with the Almighty and about forgiveness and about repentance. And every single one of those posts has been time-stamped, screenshotted, and archived by the same gossip community that saw this move coming from a mile away. Because the pattern of a celebrity suddenly finding Jesus during the exact week a homicide file goes public is one of the loudest tells in the entire criminal defense playbook. When you see somebody turn to God on Snapchat 48 hours after TMZ prints their name inside a murder paragraph, you are not witnessing a spiritual awakening. You are witnessing a mitigation strategy. You are witnessing a Maryland defense attorney whispering into his client's ear that a repentant defendant plays significantly better in front of a Baltimore jury than an unrepentant one. Watch this, because Chrisean Rock has also been running around telling anyone with a microphone that she already took the paternity test. Chrisean Rock has been telling every reporter in her Rolodex that the test is done. Chrisean Rock has been telling everyone who will pick up her call that Blueface is the biological father. Chrisean Rock has been telling every camera that Ronny Doe was lying the entire time. But here is the piece that Chrisean Rock is dodging. Here is the piece that not one mainstream reporter is pressing her on. Chrisean Rock will not release the actual paperwork. Chrisean Rock will not upload the lab report. Chrisean Rock will not name the accredited laboratory that performed the analysis. Chrisean Rock will not name the chain of custody officer who witnessed the sample collection. Chrisean Rock will not name a single verifiable data point that would allow an independent journalist to confirm that the test she is claiming actually exists. Because it does not exist. Or if it does exist, it did not return the answer she is broadcasting. And the moment a Maryland investigator serves a subpoena on that laboratory, the whole rehearsed story is going to detonate in the exact place where Chrisean Rock is most exposed. Here is the piece nobody wants to say into a microphone. Chrisean Rock is not a strategic criminal. Chrisean Rock is not Jimmy Henchman. Chrisean Rock is not a career fixer with a Rolodex of contract muscle. Chrisean Rock is a 20-something young woman with a Zeus Network reality paycheck, a Snapchat addiction, a temper problem she has never learned to manage, and a lifelong habit of confessing to felonies on a live stream at 3 in the morning while a phone camera runs in her hand. Chrisean Rock does not have the discipline to sit down. Chrisean Rock does not have the network to make evidence dissolve. Chrisean Rock does not have the political umbrella to make a Maryland detective look the other way for a favor. Chrisean Rock is exactly the type of defendant a Maryland state's attorney fantasizes about closing the year on. Sloppy, loud, self-incriminating, filmed, halfway to a confession before the arraignment paperwork is even printed. To a prosecutor, Chrisean Rock is Christmas morning wrapped in a red bow. To a defense attorney, Chrisean Rock is an ongoing nightmare because every single time you sit her down and beg her to log off the internet, she opens Snapchat and posts a scripture caption that a Baltimore juror could interpret 3 different ways, 2 of whom will be looking at her from a jury box in less than a year. Watch this, because the industry is already pivoting. Wack 100 has already pivoted. Blueface has already pivoted. Carlisa has already pivoted. Chrisean Rock's sister has already pivoted. Zeus Network insiders have already pivoted. Half the Baddies cast has already pivoted. Tia Kemp has already pivoted. Akbar V has already pivoted. The entire ecosystem of women who used to run in the same green rooms as Chrisean Rock has quietly unfollowed her, muted her, or subtweeted her over the last 30 days. That is not a coincidence. That is a coordinated distance move. That is a public relations firestorm being managed in real time by teams of people who understand that when a Maryland grand jury finally convenes, no one wants to appear inside a single photograph next to the defendant. And that is not even the wildest development, because Ronny Doe's family has now stepped forward. His sister, his cousins, his mother. His sister has already sat for a full-length interview. His sister has already looked directly into a lens and called Chrisean Rock the devil by name. His cousin has already gone on record stating that Chrisean Rock is running scared. That Chrisean Rock knows exactly what she did. And Ronny Doe's family is not letting this case cool. Ronny Doe's family is going to be on every podcast, every live stream, every YouTube channel, every TikTok comment section, every Instagram live for the entire remainder of the year. And they are going to keep the pressure sitting directly on the shoulders of the Anne Arundel County Police Department until an indictment lands. Because the pressure works. The pressure always works. Because the same Maryland detective who is watching these breakdowns to build his file is also watching these breakdowns to gauge public temperature. And when public temperature is 100% convinced that Chrisean Rock is the individual who authorized this, that detective has all the political cover he needs to walk into his lieutenant's office and say, "We are ready." Because listen, and this is the piece that nobody in the true crime space says out loud enough. The police are the biggest clout chasers in America. Every detective in this country wants to be the detective quoted in the TMZ article. Every detective in this country wants his badge attached to the arrest of a Zeus Network reality star. Every detective in America is watching this case file inflate in real time and calculating precisely how much of his own career trajectory he can attach to the moment he clicks the wristbands closed on Chrisean Rock in an Atlanta salon parking lot. And I am telling you right now, when that day comes, and it is coming, The arrest is going to be leaked to TMZ before the intake sergeant even finishes the paperwork. Chrisean Rock is going to be walking out of a Miami penthouse, or a Los Angeles Airbnb, or an Atlanta Braid appointment, and she is going to see the flashbulbs before she sees the badges. Because that is how the modern celebrity arrest works. And Chrisean Rock is about to become the case study every criminal justice reform class quotes for the next decade. Watch this, because here is exactly how the next 90 days play out. Somebody, one of the men who was on that Severn driveway the night Ronny Doe died, is going to catch a case. It might be a gun charge. It might be a distribution charge. It might be a domestic dispute. It might be a traffic stop that snowballs into a felony because there is an outstanding warrant nobody knew was open. Whatever the actual charge turns out to be, the specifics do not matter, because the moment that shooter is inside a Maryland interview room with two detectives leaning across a metal table, that shooter is going to be presented with the exact fork in the road that Wack 100 mapped out on a live stream more than half a year ago. That shooter is going to be given the choice between eating a life sentence on Chrisean Rock's behalf, a woman he does not know, does not love, does not owe, and was paid pocket change by, or handing the detective Chrisean Rock's name and walking back home to his own children. That shooter is going to hand the name over. That shooter is going to wear the recording device. That shooter is going to make the controlled phone call. And Chrisean Rock, in her infinite lack of impulse control, is going to pick up that phone and she is going to say something wildly incriminating because she has never in her adult life been able to say nothing when a phone is ringing. And that recorded call is going to become Exhibit B. And Exhibit A is going to be the neon livestream clip. And Exhibit C is going to be the confessions dropped in industry green rooms. And Exhibit D is going to be the 4-day bounty window. And Exhibit E is going to be the missed Friday court date. And Exhibit F is going to be the Jason Lee interview with the sister. And Exhibit G is going to be Wack 100's 7-month-old prediction video downloaded straight from YouTube into a Maryland evidence server. Here is the piece nobody is willing to put in writing. That is more admissible evidence than the prosecution had against half the federal defendants currently sitting in a Supermax facility. That is more admissible evidence than the prosecution had against Jimmy Henchman on the day he was arraigned. That is more admissible evidence than the prosecution stacked against half the young thug RICO defendants during the Fulton County proceedings. And that is before we get to the ballistics, the vehicle descriptions, the neighborhood witness statements, the doorbell camera footage, the license plate reader logs, the cell tower pings, the burner phone traces, the Cash App transfers, the Zelle receipts, and the encrypted messaging pulls. And Anne Arundel County has been building this file quietly for more than a calendar year, and they are almost ready to move. But that is not even the wildest chapter yet. Because Chrisean Rock, as of this week, has a fresh problem, and that problem is that a mainstream property has now printed her legal name in the same paragraph as the word homicide. TMZ is not a blog. TMZ is not a Twitter account. TMZ is a Warner Brothers Discovery property with a legal team the size of a Manhattan law firm. TMZ is the outlet that broke the death of Kobe Bryant before the coroner had finished the scene. TMZ is the outlet that broke the Diddy raid the same afternoon the agents rolled up. TMZ is the outlet that the mainstream press cites when they need a source they can defend inside a defamation deposition. And the second TMZ prints your legal name next to an unsolved murder, the story is no longer niche. The story is now national. The story is Associated Press. The story is a CNN Sheeran. The story is a Good Morning America segment. The story is a New York Post front page. And every detective on the Anne Arundel County file just got told this morning by a lieutenant with a Maryland state flag on his lapel that the entire country is watching. Do not let this file go cold. Bring this one home before Thanksgiving. Watch this, because Chrisean Rock is going to be arrested. It is no longer a question of if. It is a question of when the calendar hits the right morning. It might be next Tuesday. It might be in 6 months. It might not land until the 1-year anniversary of Ronny Doe's death, when the press coverage will peak. But it is coming. And when the arrest lands, the industry is going to react with the exact synchronized wave that industries always deploy when a criminal case finally lands on the individual everyone secretly already believed was guilty. A flood of I told you so posts, a wave of unfollows, a stack of subtweets, a run of confessional podcast episodes, and a full blackout of any face who was ever photographed inside a 6-foot radius of the defendant. Zeus Network is going to distance itself inside 48 hours. Baddies is going to distance itself inside 72 hours. Blueface Management is going to distance itself inside a week. And Carlisa Saffold is going to walk onto every platform that will book her and say, for the archives, that she called this in 2023. Here is the piece nobody wants to say into a room. Ronny Doe was a father. Ronny Doe was somebody's son. Ronny Doe was somebody's brother. Ronny Doe was a young man from Maryland with a child he genuinely believed was his flesh and blood. And he was chasing that child the way any father with a functioning heartbeat would chase a baby he thought was being kept from him. Ronny Doe did not deserve to die in his own driveway. Ronny Doe did not deserve to catch 10 rounds at close range from a shooter who was hired for a small pile of cash by a young woman who could not stomach the possibility of sitting inside a Maryland courtroom and admitting under oath that she had been lying about a baby for close to 2 years. Ronny Doe deserved to watch his son grow. Ronny Doe deserved every single thing that Chrisean Rock, if these industry insiders are telling the truth, allegedly stole from him for the price of a paternity subpoena. She was too much of a coward to face inside a public hearing. Because listen, that is the piece of this that is going to stay with me for the rest of the calendar year. The piece that the Twitter fandom does not want to sit with. Because the Twitter fandom wants to talk about Chrisean Rock's Snapchat outfit rotation and Chrisean Rock's hair color of the week and Chrisean Rock's next reality show contract. But underneath the noise, underneath the receipts, underneath the timeline, underneath the confessions, there is a little boy asleep tonight in a bedroom somewhere in California or Maryland or wherever Chrisean Rock is currently holding him. And that little boy is growing up without a father because the person who allegedly took his father from him is the same person who tucks him in every evening. Read that sentence again. That is the moral weight of this case. That is the reason Ronny Doe's family is never going to stop pushing. That is the reason this story does not fade. Watch this. Because Chrisean Rock has one final card left in her hand, and it is the card she has been telegraphing on her Snapchat for 6 straight weeks. Chrisean Rock is going to try to leave the country. Chrisean Rock is going to try to disappear into a Caribbean nation with no extradition treaty, or a South American country with a diplomatic pipeline slow enough to gather dust, or an African jurisdiction where a Maryland warrant gets lost inside 3 different consular translations before it lands on the right desk. Chrisean Rock is going to try to pull the exact escape play that half of the American fugitives before her attempted. And Chrisean Rock is going to hit the exact same wall those fugitives hit, which is that the FBI operates legal attaché offices inside almost every embassy on the planet. And Interpol issues red notices in under 7 business days. And private investigators quietly retained by Ronny Doe's family will find Chrisean Rock inside a nail salon in Accra before the United States Marshal Service has even finished laminating the paperwork. There is no country far enough. There is no jurisdiction slow enough. There is no diplomatic loophole wide enough. Chrisean Rock is going to be brought back into an American courtroom. The only remaining variable is whether she walks in wearing wristbands or she comes home inside a bag, because the streets have their own private opinion on how this ends. But that is not even the wildest whisper circulating tonight, because there is a growing conversation happening inside every group chat in this niche, a conversation nobody wants to type out loud, that Chrisean Rock may not make it to trial. Not because she runs, not because she hides, because the same men she paid, the same men who accepted a small envelope to end Ronny Doe's life, are watching this TMZ story circulate right now, and they are doing their own arithmetic on how much easier their own lives get if Chrisean Rock is no longer available for questioning. Because dead defendants do not testify. Dead defendants do not flip. Dead defendants do not sign plea agreements in exchange for the names of the men who pulled the trigger. And the men who pulled the trigger on Ronny Doe have every possible incentive to make sure Chrisean Rock does not survive long enough to sit inside a Maryland courtroom. That is the darkest possible version of the ending. That is the version the streets are whispering. And it is the version a smart defense attorney is losing sleep over tonight. Here is the piece nobody wants to admit. Chrisean Rock committed the classic celebrity criminal error. Chrisean Rock talked. Chrisean Rock ran her business. Chrisean Rock confessed to friends who were not really friends. Chrisean Rock confessed to industry associates who were secretly recording. Chrisean Rock confessed to Zeus Network castmates who owed her nothing. Chrisean Rock confessed